Good morning, everyone. This is Karli Thompson, and I am here with Brandy Maynard. We are both the Gifted and Talented Specialists for the Idaho Virtual Academy. We work with students K through 5, or kindergarten through 5th grade, and we are excited to be here in our first National ALP Parent Session for the year. Sorry for the last minute logging in there. I had a few problems with being able to get my my moderator link, and so I had to borrow it from Gary Smith. He's our ALP coordinator nationwide, and so anyways, I'm logged in as him, but GS Smith is actually me, Karli Thompson. So anyway, at least it has my picture up there, and I appreciate Gary helping me and coming to the rescue there at the last minute. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's get started. I'm excited for this session today. Brandy and I, we are up here in Idaho, up to the far left. If you parents would like to grab your moderator tools, you can click on the one that has the little star. Let me give you moderator tools quickly here. And you can click on the one that looks like this right here with my arrow. And then you can take it and put it over, where are you in the United States? Where are you guys at? I'm down here in southeast Idaho in a little town called Pingree. It's outside of Blackfoot. If any of you are familiar with Idaho, it's in between Idaho Falls and Pocatello. Those are a little bit bigger cities around us. And then Dr. B, she is clear up north near Coeur d'Alene. And so we like to, our students call us Dr. B and Mrs. T. So you guys feel free to call us Karli and Brandy if you would like, whichever is fine by us. But feel free to use the chat session. This whole session today is about you guys being able to have a resource of one another and being able to share ideas, tips, and tricks that you have found that worked for you, and that may then in turn help the other parents out there that are schooling their gifted children at home as well. So it looks like we have quite a few people over there on the East Coast area, and so we welcome you guys to our session today. We're really excited you're here. We have a few people here in Idaho with us too, and even down in Georgia. So welcome everyone to our session today. Sometimes I have parents that will ask, hey, can I print your whiteboard, all of the notes that are on this whiteboard? And you certainly can. You can go up to the top left-hand side of your screen, and you can go to File, and then from there, you're going to go down to where it says Print. And then from there, you can either choose to print your whiteboard. And by clicking your whiteboard, you can then choose to print just that current screen, the current page, or the entire presentation. And then that way it'll send to your printer, and it makes it kind of easier to be able to refer to your notes or to look back at the things we talked about today. Because a lot of times I do have parents that say, oh, I wish I had that whole presentation on paper. So feel free to do that. All right. Well, our objectives of our session today are, first off, I'm hoping that by the end of our session, you will feel very comfortable with understanding how to motivate gifted students through different work. In the ALP program, we call it different work because just because a student is advanced, they shouldn't have to do more work. Instead, we differentiate so that the work they're doing is different and applicable to them. We hope that you'll understand the differences between acceleration, compacting, and enrichment. There's a distinct difference between all three things. And then as well, discover strategies to prevent underachievement in your students. So I like this little, I'll give you a second to read this. So yeah, parents of gifted children are often surprised and dismayed when their children underachieve in school. Learning disabilities in gifted children can sometimes lead to underachievement, but usually it is just a lack of motivation is what the problem is. Motivating some gifted children can be difficult. Neither rewards nor punishments, they seem to work for a student. A lot of times parents will say that, say nothing is working, I can't do any rewards or motivation. And so what can a parent do to motivate their gifted child? Anybody have any suggestions of what you do that you have found that has really worked with your student? Anybody want to type that into the chat box, or feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to take the mic and discuss that. But what are some things that you do? Do you have any strategies that you are currently using or that you have used and maybe it worked for a little bit but it didn't work very long, it wasn't long term? What kind of strategies do you do? Okay, Dr. B, do you want to take the mic?
Sure. Thanks, Karli. This is Brandy. I just actually used this last night, and I'm surprised I didn't think about it earlier because I've done it with several of my own students, but I've never done it with my own child before. And we had a little bit of a breakdown last night, just feeling overwhelmed with the amount of homework that he had after school. And so we sat down and we created a schedule or a calendar. And we just made a checklist of all of the things that he needed to do over the course of the week for homework. And then I gave him a calendar Monday through, well, we actually did Saturday through Friday, and he got to plot on the calendar the days that he was going to do his vocab, the day he was going to do his spelling, the day he was going to work on his math, the day that we were going to do writing classes together. And so then he filled in all of those blanks. The schedule became his. I was no longer writing him anymore about homework. And he woke up this morning and he went right over to the fridge and said, oh, after school today I'll be doing, and then he listed off the 4 things that he would be doing. And he was so cheerful, looking forward to his homework after school, which has never happened at my house before. So that was a motivational strategy, just turning it over to the child.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandy. You know, I just find it so interesting that the biggest thing that I have a problem with is being consistent with my own kids. I always tell myself, Karli, practice what you preach. In fact, I just had an experience the other day where I had talked with a parent and discussed strategies to help her, and we found that her kids needed to have more of a short-term reward. And I said to myself later that day, I kept telling my kids over and over again to do something that I asked them to, you know, mind, or I asked them to pick something up. And it would take 2 or 3 times of me asking them before they, you know, minded me. And I got to the point that I'm like, you know what, this is ridiculous. My kids do not mind me on the first time, and I want them to learn to mind on the first time. So that's where I decided, okay, I'm going to implement a motivational strategy just for my minding chart. And that's what we did. And I cannot tell you how amazing it was. The kids put a sticker on, I just made a real quick little graph, and the kids were able to put a sticker on every time they mined on the first time. And if they got the entire graph filled out on their first row, then we could go to the dollar store and they could pick out a toy. And I cannot tell you how amazing my life was after that. The kids acted so much better. So definitely, you know, we don't recommend using the 3-pronged approach and you know, just forcing the kids, you do it or die, as in this cartoon. There are some actual strategies that I believe will really help you by the end of our session today. So sometimes parents of gifted children forget how important motivational strategies are. They have a child who speaks like an adult, but the child is only got, you know, the child's only 8 years old in this little 8-year-old body. I try to remind the parents I work with that even though their child seems so much older, it's important to still provide motivational strategies for that child. I have a really great file transfer I'm going to send to you guys right now. A teacher in the Idaho Virtual Academy created this years ago, and I refer to it all the time because it has a list of fun ways to motivate your kids. When I say a motivational strategy, what I mean by that is some kind of a system you have set up to be able to get your kids motivated to accomplish what it is you want them to accomplish. It can be anything from folding their socks, you know, or to getting schoolwork done on the online school. All right, so make sure when that came across to your desk just now, click Save. Save it somewhere on your desktop so you can easily open it later. There's ideas there that maybe one thing will work now that you will need to switch it up a little bit later and do something else. It's very important to use short-term goals and rewards. Depending upon the age of the student, a short-term reward may be as short as an hour for possibly a kindergartner finishing maybe their hated math assignment, or a week for a 6th grade student lacking motivation to clean his room. Short-term needs to be within a time period that is not so far off that the student forgets about what they're working towards. In saying this, your long-term rewards should be within a reasonable amount of time as well. Unmotivated, gifted children generally don't focus on anything but the present. 2 weeks into the future is even hard for some of them to imagine, let alone think that they're going to work towards something that's 2 weeks in the future. So be sure to accommodate your short-term goals to a reasonable time period. And that's what a lot of times I will find my parents will have their short-term reward as something that is way too far in advance. Maybe it's at the end of the week as their reward, and then at the end of the month was their long-term reward. And a lot of times that's just too far in advance. The kid's not motivated because it seems like forever away. So really evaluate what your short-term rewards are. And I find that if you have a student that absolutely hates to write, well then maybe implement a motivational strategy, some kind of a reward system. It's important to have them involved in helping you decide that reward system, something you're willing to give them, but at the same time what they're willing to work for. And then going from there, it's important to be able to make sure that it's not too far in advance. A lot of times right after the lesson, being able to put a sticker on something will do wonders. And then maybe at the end of the day, or maybe it's more appropriate at the end of 3 days, whatever it is, that they then get a longer term reward for something that they're working towards. Now in saying all this, remember that, you know what, you don't have to necessarily have like something you're buying for your kid every time. Maybe it is 15 more minutes of free time, of recess. Maybe it's 15 more minutes of, I don't know, reading time. Maybe they just love to devour books and they want more time to read at night, or stay up 15 minutes later, or have a popcorn party. There's a lot of other things you can do besides just buying your kids something. So I just encourage you guys to really evaluate what kind of a reward system you have set up, and making sure that you have a short-term reward as well as a long-term reward. Okay? I'll sometimes have parents say to me that they want their child to work towards their goals and have the satisfaction that the job is complete as a reward, which is understandable. But I need to remind parents that their kids are still kids. Usually that intrinsic motivation comes with maturity and with age. They're going to get that as they mature. They'll understand, hey, I received the satisfaction of a good job well done, you know, and it feels so good that I did that. That comes with maturity and age. But while they're young, they are still kids, and motivational strategies are a huge part of their learning and how to set goals for life. So, okay. Let me go ahead and, before we move on to this, I just would like to get a little feedback. Are you finding, after I just discussed about those short-term and long-term rewards, are you finding that your short-term rewards perhaps maybe too far in advance? If any of you guys are doing these short-term rewards, are you rewarding them pretty soon after it is that they accomplish what it was? And remember, that short-term reward can be a small little thing like a sticker or checking off a box or something. Give me your feedback. Do you feel that your rewards are appropriate, or do you feel like that's something you could work on? Great. Heather says she has many rewards throughout the day. Wonderful. Okay, Heather, do you want to take the mic and share with us?
Okay, I think it's working. One of the things that I'm actually doing right now, I brought the kids in and I told them that I was going to be on the computer, and I gave them the little, 4 assignments. I said, you guys can do them in any order that you want to do them in, and check them off when you're done. And when you're done, you bring your piece of paper to me, and I'll see all your check marks and you finished everything, and then you can have free time so I can finish my game on this Class Connect with you guys. And so they have the freedom to prioritize which activity they want to do first. They get to check it off, and then they get to go outside and be wild animals again.
Heather, I love that. Thank you for sharing with us. Have you found that your life is easier by implementing those strategies? And when you're consistent in implementing, She says absolutely, yeah. And that is where I struggle. And parents, if all of those that are veteran learning coaches out there, please remember that consistency is huge. And if you're going to waver one time, those kids are going to read that. They're not going to care anymore. But if you're consistent, that is one of the hardest things to maintain when you're continuing to teach, or parent for that matter. So.
Karli may be having a little bit of trouble with her microphone. Let's give her just a minute to get back on.
Can you hear me now? I'm so sorry. I forgot to push talk. I thought I did, but maybe I just didn't hit it hard enough there. I was talking away, so thank you, Brandy, for letting me know that you couldn't hear me. Okay, what I was saying is that, so what's going on here? Sometimes a child gets overwhelmed by a large task. It's not that the task is difficult, but the child may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Rather than begin the task, a child will give up before he or she even begins. Help your child see the task as a series of smaller tasks. Make each small task a goal and try setting a reward for that goal. Sometimes rewards won't be necessary once a child is able to see the task as a manageable one. You know, if you have a child that has their comparing and contrasting essay that they have to do, well, you know, that is pretty overwhelming. Oh my goodness, Mom, I don't want to do that. Look at how huge this is. This assignment is just overwhelming, and they melt down. Or they see all these problems on this math assignment. Oh, and they just melt down. Anybody relate to that? Well, the thing is that maybe you need to first make a series of smaller tasks for them to see that, okay, we're going to do this first. We're accomplishing this. This is what our goal is right now. And then you map it out like these little, you map it out like these three things here that I have. And you have just your goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and then suddenly they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, okay. Are you guys all still being able to hear me okay? Please give me a smiley face. Smiley, okay, good. All right, just making sure. I saw somebody say something about not being able to hear, so. Okay, rewards and praise. Gifted kids sometimes have trouble connecting personal effort to achievement. This is really important. I'm going to say that one more time. Gifted kids sometimes have trouble connecting personal effort to achievement. Much of what they do and learn comes so easy to them that they can achieve with very little effort. So to help a child succeed, I recommend praising their efforts at success and make that praise specific. For example, instead of saying, nice work, you know, that doesn't mean a lot to them. But if you say it's, you know, something instead specific about what they did. Hey, hon, you worked hard on your science project, and proving your theory was correct. You really earned that A. Did you see how specific that was? I talked about what specifically they worked hard on, so that that praise was more something that made them feel better about that. It made them feel like they really achieved something. Avoid though doing the reverse. Please try to avoid, don't say things like, if you worked harder, you would do better. Because, you know, like I said, a lot of times kids, it comes easy to them and they don't have to put a lot of effort into it. And so when you praise specifics, then that is a better thing for them. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about homework, turning it into some creative games. So these are some more ideas to be able to help you maybe before we start to compact, accelerate, and enrich. This is another really fun idea. Gifted children, they love a challenge, right? How many of them love, they're very competitive, a lot of them are. So by turning otherwise, you know, dull homework into a challenging game, you can get your child to do it by making it more fun. Some children like to race, so you can ask them to see how quickly they can get it done without any mistakes. Check their work, lets them see you care about it. Okay, when you're finished, you need to check it and make sure that they know, hey, this is important. But another creative approach maybe to homework is to link it to an interest. So for example, let's say I have a student that really hates math, but he loves astronauts, he loves space. And so maybe what I could do is take this dull worksheet, and we can say that we're decoding an assignment for an astronaut space mission to Mars. Unless the work is done correctly, the mission will fail. Even the smallest mistake can create a problem that can cause the mission to fail. How many of you do this? How many of you change your lessons into a game or into an interest area that your child likes? Any ideas out there, or anybody that has done this before? You want to share with us what you do? Okay, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, just finding anything that they're passionate about at that moment. Rebecca says literature lends itself well to acting and role-playing. Great. And you know, that's the fun thing is, a lot of times gifted kids have great sense of humor, and I think laughter is one of the best things to accomplish what you need to get done in any kind of a tense situation, any kind of you know, struggle of will. If you can add humor and fun to it, your kids are going to be loving to do what they do. So let me share with you a little bit about time management. When you start school, gifted children usually have few problems keeping up with their work. They learn quickly and easily. While that may sound like a real advantage, it can sometimes lead to problems. These are the kind of children that may never learn to manage their time in order to get work done. At some point, whether in high school or in college, they may feel overwhelmed by the work they need to complete and don't know how to set time aside to complete tasks. Teach your children how to create and use a time management schedule. This is called a graphic organizer. See this? This is a great example. I've got my hamburger here, and maybe using this as a graphic organizer of what they need to get done that day. We wake up and do the online school, we do attendance, we do our daily oral language, or whatever it may be. We begin our math, and then we have lunch. Okay, this is a great graphic organizer for kids to be able to see, and it just helps them. Visual learning is one of the most common learning styles of most people. Most people are visual learners, and so this is a great way for them to be able to have those thoughts organized on paper to see, and it feels so good to check things off. I'm going to share with you another file transfer right now of some more graphic organizers that I have for you they're wonderful ideas to be able to share with your kids. There's schedules that you can use, a chart. They're all just a bunch of different ones that I'm gonna send over right now. So I've got 3 of them. And then I also have a wonderful document. So the 4th thing I'm sending next is a document called Time Management for Gifted Kids. And so everyone take a minute and go ahead and save those right now as they come across to your desktop. Okay, so once you've got those saved, I would encourage you to later on open them up and see if any of those graphic organizers will maybe help you with your students and helping them, especially in an area that they may be struggling in. So, okay, now we've talked about several motivational strategies that work for gifted and non-gifted children. Okay, they work for all kids. However, what I'm going to talk about next is something that is specific towards a gifted child. There are 3 strategies that are absolutely necessary accommodations that have to be made for a gifted child. I like to refer to gifted ed as the flip side of special ed. It really is. If you were to just take it on the opposite end of the spectrum, it would be completely unheard of to have a special ed student integrated into a traditional classroom without having special learning accommodations being made for that child, right? So it should be just as unheard of to have a gifted student integrated into a traditional classroom without any special learning accommodations being made as well. Because of this, we have to provide acceleration, compacting, and enrichment for these gifted kids. This is what makes a gifted kid tick, okay? And so if you've completely tuned me out all the way up until now, that's okay. But I want you to really pay attention to this part, because this is huge. These three things are necessary accommodations to be made. Now, the important thing is, if you do not nourish a gifted child's giftedness, they can actually lose it. Studies have proven this, that by the time they're about 7th, 8th grade, they will even out with their peers if you are not nourishing their giftedness. And what I mean by nourishing are these three things: the acceleration, compacting, and enriching. Okay, so let's discuss these. So what is acceleration in the ALP program? Let me give you your polling tools really quickly here. And we're going to go ahead and choose A, B, or C. Is it talking at a faster pace, quickly going through a grade level, or slowing down to the child's level? You guys can click on your A, B, C, or D option over here on the left-hand side under the participant box. And you guys are absolutely, let me see, most all of you are almost correct. Let's go ahead and publish these to the whiteboard so you guys can see these. Let's see. Most of you all chose B, which you are correct. The answer is B. It's quickly going through a grade level, a whole grade level. A lot of times parents may think that it is just going through the lesson really quickly. And I refer to it, which, you know, acceleration, the definition of acceleration is to speed up, but I refer to acceleration within the online school as going through an entire grade level at a quicker pace. Here is the definition from the National Association for Gifted Students: progress through an educational program at rates faster or at ages younger than conventional, allowing a student to move through the traditional educational organizations more rapidly based upon readiness and motivation. Okay? All right, so the thing about this is use it with caution, but when necessary. So like I said before, this is applicable to gifted students, all right? And you want to use it with caution, so you're not like, you know, skipping over everything, but at the same time, if that child has mastered that content, it is necessary to accelerate and find a level of new understanding that that child has not learned yet. That is the important part. You want to be able to go through and find that. So for instance, you may have a kindergartner come into the school that's already reading on a first grade level. Because of this, the kindergarten phonics course will probably be, I hate to say it, but a waste of time for that child, right? So I would encourage a parent that is in this situation to accelerate quickly through the language arts by doing unit assessments and perhaps even semester assessments only, so we can quickly get to the next grade level and finally have the student working on information that is new to them. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to pick it up quickly, because remember, gifted kids usually pick things up within 1 to 2 repetitions, okay? They usually master things within 1 to 2 repetitions, whereas a general ed student can take 8 to 10 repetitions before they master that concept. So it doesn't mean they're not going to pick it up quickly, but it's at the point of when it's new information, they have not been taught that information. That's when we start to slow down, okay? So accelerating is going quickly through the grade level till you find the area of new information. So to be able to find the semester assessments in the online school, let me just quickly show you this, especially if you're a new learning coach. You come to your screen that has your tabs up here on the top, and you're going to click on your Progress tab. From here, you would go ahead and let's say I'm gonna accelerate through literature. And you would go ahead and click directly on that blue hyperlink, Literature 3 or whatever course, maybe it was math that you're wanting. And then it's going to bring you to a page that has 4 different tabs. It'll show you your lesson list, your materials, your advanced prep, your objectives, whatever it may be, okay? Within here, you will see all the different lessons that the child has. But look at, ding, 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 my unit checkpoint. That unit checkpoint is probably what I would do. I would skip all these other lessons, give the student the unit checkpoint first, and if they master it with 90% or better, then I know that, hey, that means they got everything here. They know what's going on. They've mastered it. So I'm going to keep moving on until I find the point of new information. Now, You need to mark those lessons complete on the online school as you finish each unit or semester assessment. You won't see the progress bar move across, okay? So right here on this page, see this the progress bar is the dark one. That means that those things have been marked complete. But if it's light, it just means that they may have skipped it. Okay, so if you have a student that really wants to see that progress bar continue to go across, you need to mark each of those things complete in between, all those lessons complete in between. But I tell my parents, you know what? As long as if you have maybe a portion of it dark and then you have the other parts that are skipped, as long as I can check and see that you have mastered those assessments, and I watch. If there's 2 or 3 times that they've taken the assessment before they mastered it, then that concerns me, and I'll talk to that parent and just see, hey, what's going on here? Or are you aware of it? Sometimes they're not aware that their child took it 2 or 3 times before they mastered it. And so that's the thing is we watch for that as teachers with the virtual academies. But I tell my parents that, you are fine. I do go in and check and make sure that those assessments are mastered. If they're mastered, I don't care that you're dark blue is all the way in and your lighter is showing me that you've compacted through or accelerated through the curriculum. That's okay. So anyway, that's just for your knowledge. If you want your child to see that dark all the way across, you do need to mark those complete as you keep going. Otherwise, just go ahead and do your unit assessments until you reach that point of new learning. If a child doesn't master 90% or better, then I know that I need to slow down and go back to reteach. That's the point when I realize, okay, I've accelerated enough. We finally reached the point of new knowledge, okay? Now, I have a warning for you guys. Kindergarten kids and whole language, that's something that's important. A lot of times we'll have 3-, 4-year-olds that are learning, they pretty much self-teach themselves how to read. They pretty much pick it up so quickly. And because of that, they lose out on that phonics and later on become horrible spellers. Because what happened is they recognize those words almost like a picture. They see the word that one time, and they are able to always to see that, and they put it into a department in their brain that it's a picture, that word is that. And so because of that, they didn't learn the necessary phonics to be able to sound words out, and especially when they get into high school or college and get into maybe biology courses and they need the necessary phonics skills to be able to sound out, it is important to be able to have understood phonics. And so I do caution my kindergarten, 1st grade parents that I encourage them, even though you're maybe accelerating quickly through the material, I encourage them, you know what, print off 5 unit assessments at a time, or if you're doing 1st and 2nd semester assessments, make sure they understand these phonics rules before you move on, even though they're reading, because I do feel that that is important. And so that one thing about this that a lot of times we'll have parents tell me, I feel like I'm cheating if I do this. How many of you feel like that out there, like right now, that you may have a little bit of inclination of, oh no, I feel like I'm cheating if I just skip the lessons? Okay, let me tell you first off, a very common trait of gifted students is perfectionism. And a lot of times I will have my parents of the gifted children be perfectionists as well, and their perfectionism tendencies trickle down to their students. We know that through studies, giftedness runs in families. It's not always hereditary. It's not always, it is a combination of hereditary and environment. That is what studies show. And so it makes sense that it would run in families because of that. If you were to do an IQ test with a student, the parent and even the grandparent will usually score within 10 points on an IQ test of one another, because that giftedness usually does run in families. And so like I said, perfectionism a lot of times is a trait of a gifted child. They're so used to mastering things on the 1st or 2nd time that they melt down when they actually are challenged with something, and it freaks them out a little bit. And I find that my gifted parents sometimes have a hard time with skipping and going on. They feel like, no, my child has to know all of this. And then their kid is always acting out. Their kid is unmotivated. There's fights there all the time at home because the parent's not allowing that acceleration and that accommodation to be made. And so I try to really emphasize that, hey, This is just as necessary of an accommodation for a gifted child as it is for a special ed student that would need an accommodation being made. You need to recognize that it's not cheating when it's appropriate, okay? And that is huge. So please remember that. Okay, let's move on. Any questions about acceleration before I move on to compacting? Anybody want to type any questions in that we can cover real quick, or anything want to take the mic? Dr. B says, how do I accelerate reading comprehension for 2nd grade since there's no unit checkpoint? Okay, so some of your units aren't going to have, for instance, within that literature, you may not have a unit checkpoint to be able to do. So I would suggest if you're accelerating quickly, you're going to make sure that you pull the objectives and look at the objectives of your lessons. There usually is a 1st and 2nd semester assessment, but you're going to want to look at maybe combining 5 assessments together into one and creating your own. Just because it's not on the online school doesn't mean, or just because it's on the online school doesn't mean you have to do it. So you could manipulate that and create your own test that covered those 5 units. But another thing is, Brandy, is I would suggest, and I'm sure you were just saying this to, she knows you guys, she's just saying this to create dialogue. But in answer to that, though, is that increasing their reading comprehension, doing a little bit more in depth with the 2nd grade student, maybe allowing them to read a little bit higher literature and more complex characters. Brandy, do you want to add any more to that and share with us on the question that you brought up?
No, Karli, you covered it, and I'm just pulling down questions from the chat, and I just put in one from Nicole.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry. That's why I love having Brandy on my session with me, because it's hard to be talking and keeping your train of thought and to be watching the chat. So if I forget something, Brandy, keep continuing to put them in there for me so I recognize it, or you can raise your hand and tell me to stop. But okay, so what happens when you accelerate to the end of a course? Well, then that's when you get a hold of your homeroom teacher and you tell her, okay, we've mastered the last unit assessment, and then you request a promotion and they'll move you on to the next grade level. And that's a great way, that's accelerating your course. Nicole says, how can we accelerate through history when there's so much information? Good point. It's a little harder to accelerate through history, but like I said before, you may take 5 assessments. Go look at those assessments, see what the main idea is that you're covering, and it's very appropriate to give a gifted kid an assessment first, see what they know, and then teach the lesson to what they missed on that assessment. That'd be very appropriate to do. Or like I said, there are unit assessments that you can cover in a unit. Look at the before it changes onto a new topic. And that's what I would look at, is the unit assessment. See what information you need to draw from there, cover those ideas, and then move on. But remember, the acceleration more or less is going through a grade level quickly. And so perhaps there's information within the history lesson that would be more appropriate for compacting, which I'm going to tell you about next. Whereas a lot of times I will see that acceleration happen in math and language arts, because a lot of times the kids are a little bit more advanced in those areas, right? And it will naturally, you can go ahead and continue to compact through quickly in your science and history. But traditionally, I guess I maybe see the acceleration happen more in that math and language, those core subjects, because that's where usually those kids are so advanced in. And maybe they haven't been taught the history information yet. Remember, the whole point of acceleration is getting to a point of new information that they have not learned before. Okay, so you may not find that the history and the science you need to accelerate because they haven't learned that stuff yet. But remember, it doesn't mean they don't pick it up quickly, and that's where we're going to talk about next, is compacting. Okay, let me see if there's one more question here. Let's see, Dana says, I feel that with history and science I want to do all the lessons. Math and language arts has a lot of repetitivity. My kid is reading Harry Potter in 3rd grade. A lot of the language is just too slow. Same with math, science, and history is usually new concepts from year to year. Okay, so I think that's going to apply what I'm going to talk about next for you with compacting too. I feel that I'm cheating. I have no problem letting them work at their own pace, but struggle with the thought of skipping work as a means to accelerate. It's my issue, not their capabilities. And so whenever you're feeling that, let's see, who was that? That was Tamara. Tamara, whenever you're feeling those feelings, please try to, if you can just always refer it back to, we are the special ed, sorry, gifted ed is the flip side of special ed. And it just seems so natural to understand that a special ed student needs accommodations. That's natural. And it's so important to remember, hey, this really is the flip side. And I have to get these accommodations for my gifted kid. Otherwise, they will act out. They'll underachieve. You're going to have fights. You're going to have problems. They will, it can also even cause depression within a child. It's some serious things. So if you understand that, hey, these things are serious, I need to provide this accommodation for my gifted child, then that is huge. And I hope that you take that into consideration, all you parents out there. Ethan says, if we finish spelling and vocabulary first, is it possible to move on to a grade level up? Yeah, well, the thing about language arts, Ethan, is that it promotes as a bundle. So you have to promote all your language strands together. So if you finish one strand earlier, great. You just accelerate maybe through that strand, but you need to, you apply where appropriate. That's what I'm saying. Brandy, Nicole asks, how can we accelerate through history when there's so much information? And that's what I had kind of mentioned earlier too. Maybe I'm kind of behind on the chat here. Let's see. How far up should we let them move? Use your 90% rule as your guide. If they start scoring below 90% on a test, you know that you've probably accelerated too much and it's time to slow down. And I think a lot of these questions are going to be answered when you guys understand the next part of compacting. So I'm going to move on with compacting. If there's still something I didn't cover, let me know and we'll come back to it, okay? Because a lot of your questions that you're bringing up, I really feel that will be answered through what the next step of your accommodations should be, and that's called compacting. So here's your polls again. Let me clear these out. Tell me, is compacting using several compact mirrors at once? Is it making one uncomfortable, or is it smashing out the fluff? What is your guys' guess? Okay, yeah. It's C. You guys everyone, all of you chose C. I'm not even going to publish it to the whiteboard. So exactly. I like to call it smashing out the fluff because you remember those old trash compactors? We had one growing up at my house. A trash compactor, it smashes all the garbage down, right? And so I like to call it smashing out the fluff within individual lessons. Okay, all the extra repetitions, all the extra activities. Remember, the K-12 curriculum is designed for your general ed learner. And remember what I said earlier, 8 to 10 repetitions before they master a concept? So it makes sense that that's the reason why the curriculum has so many repetitions. It's wonderful and enriching. It is great curriculum. But for gifted student, it's not all necessary. That's why we're having this discussion today, because you need to make an accommodation for that child. And so what I talk about with smashing out the fluff is you do the most difficult things first. I would encourage you to pull up your objectives to that lesson. Once we have accelerated, moved quickly through the grade level, then we compact the individual lessons. Now you're at a point of new understanding, but the kid picks it up quickly. You need to go through these lessons at a quicker pace with them. Not necessarily speedier pace, but you're smashing out the extra stuff, okay? So you're going to focus on what's important, what can be skipped or eliminated, what do students already know or are able to do, what they will grasp easily, what can be accomplished quickly. Most parents do not teach each and every activity in a lesson within the gifted program because their kids, unless it's something that they love, maybe it's on, I don't know, Civil War, maybe you do want to because the kids love that topic, okay? But the important thing is, like I said earlier, the best practice of gifted ed is a lot of times to give them the assessment first. Find out what they know and then teach to the lesson after you find out what they missed. Okay, that's a really great way to see, okay, this is what I need to focus on. And then give them the assessment later and you'll know that if they scored 90% or better, you did a good job of compacting that lesson. If they scored 90% or less, you probably compacted too much. Another thing is that when you are compacting the curriculum, you're going to want to make sure that when you are doing that, your kids are continuing to, you let them be your guide. Make sure that you are, I tell the parents to print off the teacher guide. You know how there's always a teacher guide that goes with each of your lessons? Print it off, take a highlighter, and highlight the objectives or highlight just the things you're going to teach. You may, as you read through that lesson, see, okay, that repeated that 3 times, that concept. I think they'll get it on the first one here, so I'm just going to highlight the first one. We'll skip those other 2 activities because I know they already got it from the first one and move on. Okay, so let me show you an example of this. If we have here pre-assessment, okay, this is kind of what a pre-assessment is before you even take the test, what I talked about. Is it's show you know from the previous chapter, okay? This is what's on your online school. A lot of times like this is a history lesson. The show you know is more or less a pre-assessment. You can use this for your pre-assessment to that previous chapter, all right? So when you're getting ready to teach, let's say the previous chapter, go ahead and find the pre-assessment. Go to the next chapter and find the show you know, print that off, let them take that test. Once they take that test, then you know, okay, this is what they know, and then go ahead and teach. Does that make sense? So you're in, let's say, chapter 3. I'm going to go on to chapter 4. Find the show you know, print it off, let them take that assessment, and that's the pre-assessment. It's the review for the unit before of what they wanted me to learn. And then that's a great way to be able to do, that's a great accommodation for a gifted child, okay? If they master this, then they probably have already mastered that lesson too. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. This is just kind of breaking up the lesson for you in a little bit more detail. So first off, remember how I said pay attention to those objectives. First thing you want to do as a parent is click on your objectives, look at them, see what, okay, these are the main ideas that they want me to make sure I'm teaching in this lesson to my child. Then the show you know is right here, okay? That's the pre-assessment. From the previous chapter, you would have probably done that on, like this is, let's say, lesson 4. So I would probably go to lesson 5, do the show you know. So I knew that I've already done a pre-assessment on this chapter to know that to find out what they don't know. No need for review. They've mastered this yesterday, right? So you don't need to continue to do your quick review up here. Smash out the optional lessons. It's just repeated info. These are your optional lessons down here. You can smash them out. Remember what I said about different work, not more work in the ALP program. Now, because you've smashed out the lessons, let's say an age-appropriate 4th grader, at least in the state of Idaho, we have to have 5 hours of required attendance a day, right? Well, because I've smashed out the fluff, my student may be finished all their lessons on the online school within 4 hours instead of the 5 hours that's required. So they have an extra hour in their schooling day that they have to do for the state of Idaho. What am I going to do for that extra hour? Well, this is, again, what we mean by different work instead of more work, okay? Once you've done that, now it's time for what's called enrichment, all right? Here's another cheesy poll. Here you go, guys. A, is enrichment drilling deeper into the content? B, making money? Or C, a word for time? Anyone know? Yes, everyone is correct. No one, I didn't even fool anybody here. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit cheesy today. I'm tired. Yes, A, drilling deeper into the content. I love this visual. Look at this drill. And I want you to imagine that, okay? So drilling deeper into an area your student is passionate about. They have finished what an age-appropriate, let's say 2nd grader in the state requires, and now they're able to drill deeper into that area of interest. Maybe it's doing more math. Maybe your child is really gifted in math. Okay, so go deeper into that subject. By doing maybe 2 or 3 lessons of math that day, you've gone through and they've loved it. They can't get enough math. You're eventually going to start working at a harder level because you're compacting through each lesson, right? Maybe it's drilling deeper into language arts. Maybe you would take them through an enrichment of letting them write their own book for that last hour of the online school day. That's educational. That's their attendance hours. But it's different work now. Maybe you could design a video game. Maybe you could write a business plan. Maybe you could learn more about your hero. All of these are ways for them to drill deeper into areas they're passionate about. Maybe it's through the fine arts. Maybe it's through piano. Whatever it may be is an area that they're gifted in. Maybe they want to research composers of piano that they are, excited about. Maybe your student will change the world because you gave them the opportunity to enrich in an area they're passionate about. So this is what I mean by making gifted kids tick. You have to be able to allow enrichment for them to be able to just thrive. This is nourishing their giftedness. Remember what I had said earlier. If you don't nourish a kid's giftedness, they can lose it. That is devastating when you think about maybe your child is the one that's going to, create the cure for cancer. And allowing that time for different work instead of more work is huge. All right, so let's go ahead and continue to move on here. Did you know, I already pretty much said this, kids need time to work on those things they are most passionate and excited about. It's obvious that it alleviates boredom, it alleviates frustration, underachievement, and even depression. So I would like you guys to share with me in the chat box some things that you know that your child is most passionate about. What are some areas that they really love? Because what you're writing down, what you're putting in the chat box, those are the things that you need to focus your enrichment on. Families in Idaho, you families are going to then use those areas of enrichment in your Renzulli learning. Okay. Other families, what I tell my parents to do, gifted kids always have questions. Seems like they always have these these questions that are going on. And so, my daughter asked me, "Hey, Mom, what are our bones made of?" And I want to see what they look like inside the bone, not like on the outside of the bone. I want to see what's in the middle of it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have no idea, and I don't have time to look it up right now, right? So can you relate? That is an idea for enrichment. Write it down on the sticky note. All these questions that they have, those topics. Put it up on your fridge, your sticky note. That is your topic for the next phase enrichment. Let them drive deeper into those areas until they've exhausted all that they want to know about that topic, and then go on, because they're always going to have more questions and more ideas that they want to find out more about. Okay, so you guys have your enrichment right now. You have that. You've written those in on your ideas of what you want to do. Now, what I'm going to talk a little bit about is passion projects. Passion projects, more or less, it's enrichment, okay? And it's just a little bit more, I guess, organized if you would like to do a passion project. Now, some families, you know what, they are already doing so much enrichment, maybe a passion project's not necessary. But I guarantee if you have something your kid is working on that's a certain project they're doing, I guarantee they're going to get done with the online school real quick. They're going to be motivated, and they can't wait to get working on the thing that they are excited about. So let your student be your guide. Kids who can explore their interests are more likely to keep their love of learning alive. Now, the time that you spend on a passion project, it can be just maybe one day is your passion project, or maybe it's going to take a week or even a year to complete their passion project. And then when they're finished, let them start a new passion project. Help your child make connections between their schoolwork and their interests. Sometimes children, they'll lack motivation because they don't see a connection between the work they're being asked to do and their goals and interests. A child who wants to be maybe an astronaut should know that math and science is very important in those jobs. A little research may be necessary to find requirements of various jobs, but help them make that connection to the real world. Okay? Just the name sounds exciting. Do I pick or let her pick? Let her pick, Viva. I think that's how I pronounce your name. Let her pick what she's passionate about. And you're going to need to be there, that guide, that Jiminy Cricket on the side of her shoulder, that little voice that's telling her and guiding her and directing her, so that it's not like something that's completely, not accomplishing anything. The parents, they need you. Your kids need you to be able to be that guide to help direct them in their passion projects. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look here. This is an example. You can print something off like this. If you, this is something you can just make up real quick. If you want a template for your passion project, go right ahead. Go to names, grade, teacher, school. You can do your start date. Put your description here, what your intended project is going to be. Maybe it's going to be a book they'll finish, or maybe it's a photo album that they finish, or maybe it's an actual robot or something that they finish, okay? So if you want something organized like this for them to see, remember graphic organizers are huge. Most people are visual learners, and so if you use that graphic organizer, great. Or it can be very impromptu. You don't have to do a graphic organizer if you don't want to. I'm going to show you a few examples of a few kids that I've worked with in the past, some of their passion projects that they've shared. We do student symposiums where we're having our kids share with us the projects that they have been working on. We're going to direct it a little bit more direct with their language arts curriculum and what they're completing with their writing this year in the Idaho Virtual Academy. But this is an example. This student, he loved to do art. That was one of his favorite things. So this was something that he worked on. It was a day project, a passion project that he worked on. I thought it was a great example for him. Here's another one, model water treatment plant. The student loved science. So look at this project. It took a little longer. It took a couple of days for him to work on this project. I've had students work on creating robots. So one student that was creating a web design, or sorry, a video game with his dad. His dad was an engineer, video gamer or something, I don't know, and he helped him to work on this video game that he created. It took them a year to do it, and they worked on that for their enrichment time every day after they were done with their online school. And you know, you don't need to let enrichment exhaust your life. Once you've reached that 5 hours of attendance that day, you can stop, shut down, and the next day begin again. You don't need it to never end, okay? However, let your student be your guide. If they, you know, if it's not fine and you're fine with it, let them continue to have fun and to enrich. Teach your children to work. Teach them to dream. Teach them that they can become anything it is that they want to be. You have an amazing opportunity to have a huge impact on your child and to help shape their future. So please remember that. Teach them these things because they really can become anything they want to be. It's amazing. I have a really great little clip I'd like to share with you. It's so powerful. It makes me cry every time I see it. So, you know, me and my waterworks will probably be going, but I'm going to hurry and do this. I'm going to put a video up on the board really quickly. If it doesn't load for you, then I would like you to if it doesn't load for you, then you can just click on it in the chat box after I get it on there. So hold on just a second. Okay, so again, if it doesn't load, click on it directly in the chat box, and when we're done, we'll come back. You can all give me a green check so I know to move on. Okay, I'm going to bring you back to the main room. It goes on to another motivational movie, and that was the main part I wanted you to see, is if your kid's got a dream, then they need to go out and do it. You're their best teacher. The most influential person in their life is their parent. And it's so cool. You're also their teacher. You can help them to dream what it is they want to dream and become anything they want to become. You guys are amazing parents out there. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. And you know what? I can't remember the name of the movie. I just found it on YouTube. Anyone who knows the name of the movie, please put it. Oh, Pursuit of Happiness. Thank you, Christy. Okay. All right, guys. Well, this concludes our session today. Do you have any questions that you would like to stay on for? If you have some questions, you can stay on and share them with us. Before I do that, I'd just like to find out how was the session today. Please take your pen tool. Remember, it's over here. Click on it. It's the second one down. And tell us where your zone is. How was the session? I want to know your comfort level on implementing acceleration, compacting, enrichment. Do you feel, hey, I'm totally comfortable, I can handle this, no problem? Or are you in the learning zone where I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone, but yes, I can do this, I can do this. Or are you in the panic zone? I can barely keep up, I won't be doing this. If you're feeling in the panic zone, please email your teacher. Talk to her. Talk to your gifted and talented coordinator with your school, and make sure that you keep in contact with them and they can brainstorm and explore ideas with you, okay? I'm so happy that you guys were able to be here today. Again, the session is over now, but we will stay on for questions. And any questions that you would like to cover, we'll be happy to stay on and answer those at this time. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. Bye-bye. Oh, Brandy, you know what I need to mention? If any of you would like to see, will you put in our website as well as our Facebook page? If any of you would like to join and you have not signed up for our giftedresources.com, that's a website we have here in Idaho that Brandy heads up for us, and she takes care of uploading our parent trainings to it, as well as there's a wonderful newsletter that she writes and adds to every single week, and so or every other week I think is what it is. And so you can go ahead and please join that if you would like to on that newsletter. And then we are also on Facebook, on facebook.com/21giftedresources, if that's something you would like to join too. So we would love to help you have you join our community. All right, thanks everyone, and I'll stop recording now. And if you have questions, please put those into the chat box, or else raise your hand and take the mic.